Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys so much for joining me for the video today. Now, when the week started, I wanted to do a video on Nuke and that suspension. Obviously, huge news in the NFL landscape. However, once I started digging deeper, it seems that there's a more pressing story that first needs to be told. I will do a separate video on Nuke and what the Arizona Cardinals are gonna be without him later on next week. But in this video, I wanted to answer the question, what is the real problem with PEDs? But before we get into that, if you guys are new to the channel, welcome, welcome, welcome. Please consider giving me a like and subscribe. I cannot say how much I appreciate your guys' support. It means the world to me and it helps me out a ton. It enables me to do what I love so I can keep bringing you guys the content that you love. With that out of the way, let's get into this version of Hot Off the Press. It seems like pretty much every year there are a handful of players who get suspended by the NFL for violating the league's substance abuse policies. Now, I used to think that this was just a basic case of cheaters that finally got caught and they're paying the price for it. And honestly, that could be the case in many situations. But after deep diving into the situation a little bit, I also learned a couple things and I wanted to share it with you. First, there is an extremely negative attitude for those who test positive in the NFL. That's according to Pat McAfee from his time in the league. This is not a situation like in baseball where everyone is doing it and trying to game the system, though I think there are obviously still players who are certainly trying to do just that. McAfee believes that many players, as far back as testing has existed, have tested positive when they legitimately didn't know what they put in their bodies was wrong. They weren't trying to get an edge and they had not tried to cheat the system either. And look, I get it. Most of us, we're wired to lean towards the negative right away. We point the finger, we doubt the legitimacy of these players' claims who are saying they had no idea. But if this is indeed the case, then something has to change. And that begs the question, how does this even happen? And it's actually pretty simple. The ingredients in supplements are not regulated by the FDA. And what that means is that suppliers can basically just straight up lie about what is in their supplements and there's going to be zero backlash. The NFL players, they can do all their due diligence, they can read the product labels, they can even call the company itself. And in the end, it still does not matter. A player can have every good intention possible, and there can still be traces of banned substances in their supplements, which results in a suspension. The players have a complete lack of control over what they're actually putting in their bodies if they cannot trust the companies that supply their ability to recover or prepare. With their livelihoods on the line, they cannot be sure that they are following all the rules while they're attempting to recover from injury or just trying to get back on the field at 100%. And to me, this just seems wrong. Why then has the NFL not tried to step forward and do something about it? Why doesn't the NFL regulate or create a system of their own where players can receive the supplements that they need with the security that they covet? Is that not in the best interests of all parties involved here? The NFL would be able to ensure that their product on the field is free of wrongdoers, protecting the integrity of their game while also the athlete's peace of mind. If the NFL really wanted the best product on the field, does that not just make sense? These supplements are things that players have used and needed for decades. This is not something new. Now, I do understand not all players would be down for this. Many of them likely have their own way of doing things. And if that's the case, then go for it, but then it's on you. But I am sure the majority would love an opportunity to get what they need and they use without having to worry about a surprise failed test a few months down the line. Instead, though, it's a free-for-all, and players are left to hope that they don't get hit. Now, it's really easy to see why there is not a system currently in place. The NFL would have to spend millions of dollars in order to develop this type of system and then to make it functional. And they would then be responsible for the backlash if anything went wrong. But it is their product, right? Do they not own at least some responsibility here? If the NFL was truly so invested in the legitimacy of their game, shouldn't they be doing whatever they can to ensure that? The bottom line is, it is much cheaper and safer for them to just wait it out for someone to test positive, even if it's just in traces, and then punish the perpetrator, whether that player was really trying to cheat or not. They then condemn that player, slap him on the wrist, and wait for the next person in line to get caught instead of proactively trying to fix the situation. Now, I ain't no Einstein, but to me that just sounds like covering your own butt and really only caring about the use of PEDs when the integrity of the game is questioned because of it. The NFL is really worried about reaping the rewards, and they don't want to accept or take any of the responsibilities that come with them. Every single year, the NFL changes what is on their banned list. That means that certain supplements can be okay one year and banned the next. A regimen that had been successful in the past for a player could now end up getting you suspended. That makes it really difficult on the guys trying to get back on the field. But if the NFL had a system in place to provide the necessary supplements that were deemed safe and legal, well, then the recovery becomes safer, clearer, and quicker. So to answer the question, what is the real problem with PEDs? It is the lack of regulation of the ingredients that go into the supplements that are used by most, if not all, of the NFL. There is an answer here. It is just not a cheap or easy one. The league cares about the integrity of its game, but only to the point where they make the most profit possible while taking none of the responsibility for it. And that is how I will end the video today. I really hope you guys enjoyed the content. I hope you learned something. If you are new to the channel, please consider giving me a like and subscribe. I cannot thank you enough for your support. It means so very much to me and it helps me out greatly. This is Relentless Press. I'm your host, Abraham Opass, and we'll see you next time.